my name's Peter Craney. I'm a Liverpool member and the European candidate for the North West region in May. Firstly, welcome to Liverpool, our proud city. We're a proud local party with excellent councillors and activists, many of whom are here with us today. We're a vibrant city of many cultures. We have a black community that debates back to the 18th century. We have a Chinese and Irish community going back to the 19th century here. And now many people from many different places who have come together to form Liverpool that we know now from Wales, from Lancaster, from Somalia, India, the Middle East, and in my case, Scotland. So welcome to Liverpool, our international city, a city where in the 1960s, different churches came together to build tolerance in a city where religious divide was existing. And we're also a city that through its history is committed to ejecting Nick Griffin from the European Parliament this May. Welcome also to the North West, where nearly 200 years ago, people gathered in central Manchester to campaign for reform, universal suffrage and equal representation. They were met with violence from the authorities at Peterloo. People were massacred. But from that event came the Guardian newspaper, the Chartists, and from that, the trade union movement. So from George Orwell to Owen Jones, we're a region that has inspired great radicalism and great writing. And right now at Barton Moss, near Manchester, we have the inspiration for a radical new politics. Heroes who are out every day in the cold and wet campaigning against fracking. They deserve our support and our thanks. So I hope you find your little piece of inspiration here at Conference in Liverpool this weekend. And I look forward to, in May, adding a little bit of history to the North West region when we elect our first Green Euro MP for the North West. Okay. So I now want you to properly put your hands together, give a really warm welcome to the leader of the Green Party, Natalie Bennett.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Conference, for that wonderful welcome. And Peter, I really look forward to ringing you up on the 25th of May to ask about your plans for moving to Brussels. It's delightful to return to Liverpool. It's my third Green Party conference here, and the progress we've made over those years is reflected in this glorious venue. We're here as the North, with the rest of Britain, prepares to mark the 30th anniversary of the start of the miners' strike. That's a sombre anniversary of the hollowing out of communities, of the start of wealth and jobs being sucked out of so many regions. It's a story of Tory neglect that runs on as Thatcher abandoned the mining communities, David Cameron has abandoned whole areas to the floods. But it's also an anniversary to celebrate resistance, community, people working together for the common good. Which brings me here in the North West, which despite the thoughts of Lord Howe, never looks in the least bit desolate to me, to, as Peter identified, one of the top local issues, fracking. Here, the Green Party view represents the majority view of the British public. That's like so many other issues, like bringing the railways back into public hands, making the minimum wage a living wage, and keeping our publicly owned and publicly run NHS. Our view, as the Green Party, is the public view. Yet elsewhere on the British political spectrum, we've got David Cameron and George Osborne determined to pursue the fracking fantasy, making claims about cheap and instant gas that even the frackers are astonished at. We've got a Lib Dem Energy Secretary who said, "I love shale gas," twice, just in case anyone was too shocked to really take it in the first time. And a Labor Party that's in favour of fracking, kind of, sort of, well, as long as it doesn't upset anyone in the audience, in which case we might take a different position. Yes, we do hear a lot of that from Ed Miliband's Labor Party. On energy, as on so many other areas of policy, from bank regulation to housing, immigration to drugs, policy must be based on facts and evidence, not wishful thinking or populist pandering. The Green Party is the only party that works on that basis, and for policies that work not for the good of the few, not for the bankers, the multinationals, the tax evaders, but for the common good. And fracking is an issue that I'm convinced we will win on, in small part due to the logic of our position, in larger part due to the strength, the passion, the determination of our anti-fracking protesters. Of course, one of those is our own wonderful MP, Caroline Lucas. She should... Go on, why not? She showed that MPs can get arrested for standing up for their beliefs, not just for expense fiddles and driving dodgers. And there are so many committed campaigners, many of whom I've met on visits to Barton Moss and Balcombe. They're standing up to the disgracefully aggressive policing, camping out through storm and flooding rain, and we stand with them. And of course, this is part of a much bigger struggle on climate change. After the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reported last year, the scientific debate is over. Outside the curious bubble of the US, UK and Australia, with their tycoon-dominated media and oil industry-funded think tanks, that's taken as standard. And yes, each individual case is weather, but Britain's record winter rainfall, the massive droughts in California and Latin America, Australia's heat waves, they come together to deliver a powerful message. Polls show the British people have heard loud and clear. Climate change is a reality. It's here with us today. It's a threat that is enormous and can no longer be ignored. And, Mr. Cameron, we can no longer have in Owen Paterson an Environment Secretary who denies the reality of climate change. Having a man in his role who's so clearly demonstrated his scientific illiteracy with the badger cull is astonishing. But having him in charge of our preparations for and prevention of climate change is a huge black mark on your record, Mr. Cameron. There are other things that history will remember you for beyond your failures on climate change. The inhumanity of the bedroom tax. This recovery built on consumer debt and a housing price bubble. What could possibly go wrong? The chaos of your energy policy, your enthusiasm for arms sales to human rights abusers. But at least, Mr. Cameron, address this one back mark. Owen Paterson has to go. Climate change and the state of our environment is going to be one of the issues of the European election in May. And it's only the Green Group, already the fourth largest group in the European Parliament, which will truly put it front and centre, which will hold firm on fighting for national renewable targets for each European state. We'll demand that Europe provides global leadership, setting a target of at least a 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, and will demand high binding energy efficiency standards. Go on. It's important. On all of these issues, in Europe, the Liberal Democrats, a party from which we might have hoped to see some support for the Green stance, are as limp in their resistance as they are to the failed Tory austerity agenda in Britain. Not that anyone really expects anything from the Liberal Democrats after their tuition fees pledge. And the experts are predicting they could be wiped out in this European election. It's really not surprising when we hear Liberal Democrats trumpeting the proposed EU free trade deal with the US as some kind of economic salvation. The Liberal Democrats are the lapdogs of corporate Europe, while the Tories are its warhorses. In their support for the trade deal, the Lib Dems are repeating the propaganda of multinational companies only interested in swallowing up new markets, consuming new societies whole. Let's make no mistake, the proposed free trade deal is a huge threat to the hard-won standards for the quality and safety of our food, the sources of our energy, workers' rights, and our privacy. One of the greatest contributions of the EU is to set a foundation of these standards. Not good enough, not high enough, but a start. The proposed free trade deal is a supertanker of dynamite that would blow those foundations apart. And what's more, it would blow apart the power of our democratic decision-making. We say we'll not let this happen. The deal provides corporations with new rights to sue the government for legislating in the public interest. That's definitely not acting for the common good. And there's more. It's a deal being proposed with a state that Edward Snowden has shown is profoundly untrustworthy. Yet there's no openness, no democracy about the negotiations. The mandate that the EU Council gave the Commission is still classified as secret. Now, you might have noticed that two of Britain's noisiest political minnows, two of yesterday's men, Nigel Farage and Nick Clegg, are planning to have a debate on Europe. So we've got, on one hand, the man who's telling voters that pulling out of Europe will magically restore some past golden age. Debating a man who's not only prepared, but delighted to hand us over to the untender mercies of multinational business. and the safety standards of a United States that's just poisoned the water of 300,000 people in West Virginia, and which supports an antibiotic-flooded, growth hormone-contaminated meat and milk chain. Now, I can't, in all honesty, claim that I really want to be in the same room as Nigel and Nick. Who would? But I do want to be there to put the case for being in Europe, but a green Europe that works for people, a reformed Europe that respects and supports the principle of subsidiarity, local decision-making by the people affected by every decision, while a foundation of standards is maintained across the continent. In short, a Europe that works democratically for the common good. And in Britain, Greens are the only major party to reject the race to the bottom in immigration rhetoric. We say that the rights of refugees, the rights of Britons to a family life, the opportunities to benefit from foreign students in our universities and colleges all need to be respected, need to be embraced. We say that the government's immigration bill is pernicious and it has got to go. So I say today to the television producers, to the media executives, to the public, that if there is a debate on Europe, the Green Party, I, must be there, and we will fight to be there. The voice, the interests of the people of Britain, the people of Europe, need to be heard. And that's also what we're fighting for in the council elections in May, and what we'll fight for in next year's general election. We made real strides at the county council elections in 2013, and I'm confident that we will do the same at this year's council poll. Our Association of Green Councillors is going from strength to strength, growing in numbers. And we've got a new secret weapon, a manual written by some of our star campaigners. It's secret, so I can just give you a glimpse. Do make sure you get a copy. It's a guide to taking up the opportunities before us. For what is coming here in Britain, in Europe, around the world, is change. Business as usual, politics as usual, trashing the planet as usual, are no longer available options. Voters are tired, angry, and disillusioned with the same old politics of say one thing, do another. But we don't just need change, we need the right sort of change. If we look back over the past year, huge nations, mass societies have been through dangerous, uncontrollable, unfinished turmoil and huge suffering. From Syria to Ukraine, from Egypt to Thailand, Mali to South Sudan, all political certainty, all real sense of safety has dissolved. And that reflects a much more general global feeling, an understanding that you'll find too on the doorsteps of Britain. The dominant neoliberal philosophy of Blair and Thatcher has now been exposed. Exposed as hollow, exposed as empty, exposed as failed. We are at an historic moment. In 1979, the UK changed direction, started on the path towards where we are today, with inequality at Victorian levels, the social safety net snatched away, the path for a decent, comfortable life blocked to most young people who face starting out under a crippling weight of debt, in a world of low pay, of 0 hours contracts, of chronic insecurity, of levels of consumption far greater than the planet can bear. Now, today, we must grab the steering wheel away from the control of the bankers, the multinational companies and their servants in Parliament, and take control of it ourselves. Everybody needs a say in the direction that we take. And as the Green Party, we say that there are two principles that must guide that direction. We should ensure that every person in Britain, and eventually the world, has sufficient resources for a decent quality of life, and that we have to live within the environmental limits of this planet. So what does that mean? A decent life doesn't just mean not sleeping on the streets and being able to eat by the means of the charity of a food bank. It means a warm, comfortable, affordable to heat home. It means healthy food and the means at least for little luxuries that make life worth living. It means the chance to build a fulfilled, respected life with useful things to do, and an education system that offers the chance to grow your capabilities throughout your life. So how do we deliver that? Well, we can begin with a minimum wage that is a living wage. When the Green Party started saying that a decade ago, it was a radical idea. Now it's almost mainstream, an idea whose time is clearly now. Ed Miliband's Labour Party is still sitting on the fence. They're offering companies tax breaks, generous enough if they pay the living wage. We will tell those companies, all companies, that the living wage will be the minimum wage. And another step on a path to a society that works for the common good is to end the disastrous outsourcing of public services that go to private companies whose one skill is bidding for public contracts, not delivering on them. We say, put public money back into delivering for the common good, not for private profit. And absolutely critically, we say we must truly rein in the bankers. Unlike Labor, we recognise that no banking product should exist unless it can demonstrate the benefits outweigh the risks and the harm. And after that, we can get a bit more radical. The Green Party has strong policy: land value tax, basic income, damage taxes to replace VAT, the kind of progressive solutions that Britain, that the world needs. You, the Green Party members here in this hall and all around the country, have doubled in number since 2008. You are the people who have developed those solutions. You are spreading those ideas, spreading them fast, and well done to you all. There's so much to do and so little time, but I want to take now a very Green Party step, acknowledging that we are all leaders, that we all have a place in changing our society so that it works for the common good. Now, I can't ask all of you up to the microphone, wouldn't quite fit, but I am going to ask 3 more of the people who I hope will join Peter in packing their bags for Brussels to briefly step up to share a few thoughts. Each of them needs only around a 1% swing to be the first Green MEP representing their region. So, first up, Molly Scott-Cato from the Southwest, economics professor and finance spokesperson.